The Mentor Roulette, the so-called anything goes roulette that can land you almost anywhere, is kind of a problem. And no, I'm not a mentor going, "Meh, why can't it just be easy content?" Rather, I'm a mentor concerned that the roulette itself doesn't really accomplish what it set out to do by design. So let's talk a bit about that. Just to first address the elephant in the room. Yes, there is a core issue with the mentor status when a lot of players pick it up for the sake of getting the crown itself, or some other benefit of being a mentor. It's absolutely not optimal that some mentors use the novice network like a bonus public chat to meme in. Perhaps the screening process for mentors isn't the most effective. Some or most of these issues might be resolved by clearly raising the expectations and requirements of being mentors in some way, because as it stands, some players can view the difference between being not a mentor and being a mentor as getting access to more options, rather than dedicating to actually mentoring other players. It's like an account progression step, comparable to leveling a job to 90 or unlocking a new feature. But with that said, why is it the Mentor Roulette is a problem? Well, the primary problem is actually mildly similar to the Alliance Raid problem, which is something 6.5 actually attempts to address, but we will have to wait and see if the solution somehow generates new issues separately. Incidentally, these potential new problems may be extremely similar to what the Mentor Roulette is facing, and have been facing for ages. Let me start by explaining the original problem with the Alliance Raid Roulette in somewhat brief. As a max level player, the daily reward used to be fixed, which means that whether you did Circus Tower or Puppet's Bunker, the end reward was the exact same. Now, if you're only interested in the daily reward and nothing else attached, then doing Circus Tower in around 10 to 15 minutes is a lot more convenient than doing Puppet's Bunker in 30 to 45 minutes. What led to the issue where some players would intentionally use tricks to guarantee they got an ARR Alliance Raid was simply that knowing you would get a quick Alliance Raid that can be finished in under 20 minutes is a lot more manageable than queuing for something that can take anywhere between 10 minutes, a quick and efficient Circus Tower run, and 45 minutes, like any near raid with a group that fails a lot. Not everyone knows for sure whether they have 45 minutes at hand in case they need it. Which partly leads us to the Mentor Roulette problem. The Mentor Roulette is almost like an anything goes kind of roulette, by which I mean the only things that are not available in the Mentor Roulette is any PvP content, the current expansion's extremes, all ultimates, all savage, and the Binding Coils of Bahamut raid tier. Everything else is on the table, meaning that when a mentor queues for Mentor Roulette, they are just as capable of landing themselves in the normal Ifrit encounter at level 20 and be done in like 2 or 3 minutes, as they could land in Diamond Weapon Extreme, which essentially lasts until they win, until they give up, or at most when the bell rings and an hour has passed. It is also possible that they land in Circus Tower, 10 to 15 minutes, or Puppet's Bunker, 30 to 45 minutes. The first problem here is, of course, that the only real limit to what mentors can land in when they queue for this roulette is almost entirely dictated by what other players are queuing for. Meaning that it is almost impossible that a mentor would land in Diamond Weapon Extreme, since by Shadowbringers most players give up doing new extremes as they unlock them, and typically have gone completely away from trying to do them in Duty Finder anyway. At least for the Western player base. But that is not to say that there is a problem with new players queuing for extremes. If that was a problem, then the issue would be that extremes are in the Duty Finder at all. No, the problem with a Mentor Roulette effectively lasting anywhere between 3 minutes and an hour is that if you thought the old Alliance Raid system's daily reward structure was bad, then you have seen nothing yet. The Mentor Roulette's daily reward gives less than half of the rewards the normal Raid Roulette gives. In other words, we can probably assume that people are not doing Mentor Roulettes for the daily reward. But then you might ask, why else, pray tell, might they do a Mentor Roulette, Kai? The answer, unfortunately, is for a mount achievement. If you complete 2,000 Mentor Roulettes successfully, you get the Astro Whistle. There is, of course, the possibility that some mentors do Mentor Roulette just for the sake of having fun, but those are very rare, so let's assume they're doing it for a purpose, and the primary purpose is that mount. Now, the reason why this is actually a problem is that this roulette is intended to be a roulette for doing whatever needs doing, meaning any other roulette that is having trouble finding people can get some help. And it means anything that is on the Mentor Roulette list, but not anywhere else, also can finish. But the Mentor Roulette is also intended to match new players with mentors that can teach them. Conceptually, this sounds like a good and noble idea. The problem is that because of the reward structure for the Mentor Roulette, the mentors queuing are not incentivized to teach anything. In fact, the prevailing strategy is to speedrun content as quickly as possible, and if a sprout isn't entirely sure what is going on, but you can beat the content regardless, then not teaching the sprout ultimately is the most effective strategy. Again, some mentors, indeed some players in general, will teach and not speedrun too aggressively if there is a new player that needs it. But we must assume that the most effective strategy may well end up being the most popular strategy. Now, the reason speedrunning is most effective is of course because the only thing the achievement cares about is whether you beat the content or not. By that achievement's existence, mentors using the Mentor Roulette are actually incentivized to evaluate whether a group is capable of beating a difficult fight as quickly as possible, because the sooner the mentor knows that it isn't going to happen, the sooner they can dip and try again later. Ultimately, landing in an extreme that is unlikely to finish, some mentors will weigh that the 30 minutes leaving penalty is a better choice over wasting time not succeeding at an extreme encounter. There is of course also the possibility that they stay, hoping someone else leaves so that they themselves get to leave with no penalty. Or they stay for 15 minutes to instantly vote abandon. Ultimately, the winning move when presented with a very difficult fight that would actually require mentors to maybe teach something is to leave and give up, because there's no reward at all for trying and failing. This is in stark contrast to how the sprouts that specifically queued for the extreme trial, possibly sitting there waiting for hours for the group to form, was possibly perfectly prepared and ready to work at learning this fight, not expecting a clear outright. Yes, some sprouts will learn that extremes are maybe a bit too hard to queue for casually, or at all for them, but others will see it as a challenge and repeatedly come back. This makes a system where the new players queue for the hard content they want to beat, but almost certainly gets paired up with mentors who would rather be anywhere else but there. A system where the new player's there to maybe eventually get one clear, and a mentor that evaluates that this run in particular isn't going to make it, so no point trying at all. Gets paired up together. Now, what could actually be done about this problem? Obviously, one way to get rid of mentors that are just there for the rewards would be to get rid of the achievement outright. Perhaps put it in some other difficult achievement or content. It is not a super healthy system where players are incentivized to pick up a mentor role for the rewards rather than to be a mentor. Indeed, with no rewards attached, there probably might be a lot less mentors around, but the mentors we would have might on average be of a much higher quality. Another option to deal with the Mentor Roulette problem specifically would be to change what the achievement tracks specifically. The simplest one would be to make the achievement also count failed runs, specifically where the timer runs out. The reason it cannot count abandoned runs or runs where people left early is because that would of course incentivize mentors to do that, which was the problem to begin with. Another way to change what the achievement tracks would be to change it to track time in an active duty, meaning the clock stops once the duty is completed. This way, simply being in a duty would progress the achievement, which would mean that any content is viable for progressing the achievement, removing the need to leave. How many hours the achievement should require, I don't know, but I believe it would be a lot more effective at motivating mentors to stay and try their best in roulettes. Now, some counter-arguments to that change. This could motivate mentors to just queue into content and then go AFK to accumulate minutes. Just like going AFK normally for no good reason is likely to get you kicked rather swiftly, or worse, reported, both of these are dangers for a mentor doing something like this. This could also motivate mentors to stay in dead or abandoned groups to run the timer, but this could be alleviated by the time only counting when the party is actually full. Another thing is that this could motivate mentors to do content intentionally slowly to run the timer. On the one hand, yes, running down the full 90 minutes of a dungeon timer intentionally would be great for your achievement progress. On the other hand, once you finish a duty, there's nothing preventing you from just queuing into another Mentor Roulette, and typically the queue time for this roulette is rather short, so you shouldn't need to game the system in this way. Furthermore, if you slow down the group too much, there is an argument to be made that you are intentionally hindering the completion of the duty, which is something you can get reported for. At the same time, a Sprout group might appreciate that a mentor isn't trying to rush them. If the healer needs things to go a bit slower because they're still learning, the mentor will be motivated to give them that space. If someone asks for an explanation of how a specific fight goes, the mentor will be motivated to give that lecture. All these small things that would normally be viewed as wasting time for a mentor instead becomes optimal to engage in. Naturally, this could also lead to mentors trying to insist on explaining every single boss in excruciating detail at every opportunity, which can get a bit annoying, but some players do this already anyway. With that said, how do you think we can fix either the Mentor Roulette, the mentor system in general, or both? I would love to hear your words, share your feelings, and know your thoughts in the comments. Now, that is all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to support me and my channel, you can let the YouTube algorithm know by liking the video, leaving a comment, subscribing, and hitting the bell to get notified when next I post a video. And if you want to give even more support than that, you can also become a member of the channel like these wonderful people here. Fun fact, normally when a low-level player is in a party with a high-level player, it removes most of the experience the low-level player would gain. This is not the case when a mentor is in party with a Sprout or returning player, meaning hypothetically you could help a blue mage level while in party with them, assuming one of you is a mentor and one is a Sprout or returning player.